Greta Van Fleet returns with their most puzzling album to date. And I mean that literally. My review and a very special unboxing of Starcatcher is coming up next on Track by Track. Hey everybody, my name's Kyle, and this is Track by Track, music reviews, news, and commentary. Thanks for tuning in today, and if this is your first time here, please take a moment to click subscribe so you won't miss future reviews and more. Now, before we dive into this album, I want to let you know you definitely want to stick around to the end of the video for a special unboxing. This is the deluxe edition of the CD, only available on the band's website, and it features one of the most unique swag items I've ever seen with an album. It's a jigsaw puzzle. What? I'll give you a look at that after my review and also talk about some of the stuff that's not so great about this package. You definitely don't want to miss it. You know, I really do want to be an advocate for the band Greta Van Fleet. I sincerely think these guys are extremely talented, and I find their earnestly crafted 70s throwback rock and roll sound to be a welcome presence in today's music scene. When they first arrived with their Black Smoke Rising EP in 2017, the reaction was seismic. Not for the reasons a band might hope for, of course. No, Greta Van Fleet made a huge impact right out of the gate due to their uncanny resemblance to the sound of Led Zeppelin. That comparison has been an albatross around the band's neck since day one, and indeed a burden they didn't seem to make any effort to shake when they released their debut full-length album, Anthem of the Peaceful Army, in 2018. I enjoyed that album for what it was, which was undeniably derivative but wildly entertaining. Still, when I reviewed the album at that time, I expressed my hope that the band would evolve and come into their own sound. I think their second album made solid progress in that direction. The Battle at Garden's Gate found Greta Van Fleet still unabashedly paying homage to the rock gods of the 70s, but also beginning to make that sound their own, as if they actually were a band from that era rather than merely aping the sounds of their forebears. The album showed promise, and while not fully stepping outside of the shadow of giants, it seemed evident of their potential to be able to shine on their own. But with Greta Van Fleet's latest album, they seem more to be leaning back into the comfort of the shade rather than venturing further into the light. Starcatcher is a brisk and occasionally blistering burst of retro rock that shows little interest in striving for anything approaching originality. Moments of genuine inspiration are overshadowed by flagrant imitation, as the band delivers some of their most shamefully derivative and explicitly referential music to date. But here's the thing. I truly enjoyed listening to the album. Every time I've played it, I've found it to be a genuinely fun and sometimes joyful experience. I'll make a sweeping generalization here based on the audience for this channel and say that we all love the big, epic sound of the rock gods of the 70s. And for years, we've complained that nobody makes music like that anymore. Then along comes Greta Van Fleet with a sound that sonically echoes that beloved era so accurately that we're almost pre-programmed to embrace it. And indeed, if you do simply let yourself go with this music, you will probably enjoy it immensely. That's kind of how I feel in the moment while I'm listening to the album. But I'll also say that the experience is, well, fleeting. As soon as the last track fades out, you've all but forgotten everything you've heard. There's few truly memorable melodies, no earworms that will get stuck in your head of songs you'll find yourself absent-mindedly humming later in the day. The entire album seems expertly engineered to tap into the immediate temporary pleasure sensors in the brain without depositing anything permanent. For me, the best of these moments are the ones where the band seems to tap into their strongest melodies or makes unexpected references. The Indigo Streak is a great example of this. The song features some of the best melodies on the album and also seems to draw sonic inspiration from a band I don't think I've heard them compared to before. Is there any doubt the layered vocals on this track are reminiscent of the band? Yes. Even the melody feels like a harder-edged version of something that band could have created. That's obviously far from a new sound, but coming from Greta Van Fleet, it actually feels refreshing. They seem to be at their best when they sample the style of bands from that era without explicitly or specifically sampling the sound. And they're quite guilty of that sort of sampling on this album, perhaps no more so than on back-to-back-to-back tracks 2 through 4. On Waited All Your Life, we get the lyric that asks, "Have you been here before?" As if to answer that question, the song proceeds to rephrase Jimmy Page guitar riffs as if they're playing Name That Tune. Disappointingly, when the bridge arrives and the band seems about to do something different, the passage is instead completely devoid of any ideas, new or old. Then on The Falling Sky, we get a distorted harmonica solo unmistakably cribbed from When the Levee Breaks. It sounds cool here, yes, but it sounded cool there first. And before that familiar taste even gets a chance to fade, Sacred the Thread comes thundering in with the drum intro practically lifted, echoing beat for beat from the same song. Thankfully, it doesn't linger on that rhythm for too long, and the song does turn out to have one of the strongest melodies on the album. Yet with lyrics that basically amount to Josh Kiska singing about his sparkly clothes, the substance is a bit lacking. That track is followed by one of the more interesting moments on the album, the short but rocking interlude of Runway Blues. Clocking in at less than a minute and a half, this quick burst of energy taps into a sort of Bay City Rollers vibe. Think Ballroom Blitz here. It's another unexpected but welcome turn for the band, and one I actually wish they'd explored further. Instead, the song closes with an awkward fade-out that makes me suspect it was actually little more than a half-baked notion in the first place. The two best moments on Starcatcher come late on the album. One of those is the single Meeting the Master, a track that, to me, does the best job of showcasing every member of the band at their best. The vocals are great from start to finish, exhibiting a level of build and control often lacking on other songs. The rhythm section is perfectly calibrated, propulsive, and essential. And the guitar work here, especially the solo, is appropriately epic. Yes, the lyrics are perhaps a lot of spiritual mumbo-jumbo, but, let it go. So recently, Roger Waters released a new version of the Pink Floyd song Money, and when discussing it in the comments on my video about that song, I stated that there's a fine line between clever and pretentious. Greta Van Fleet's song The Archer is perhaps a good parallel example of that. Where Waters' new song seems to charge almost defiantly into questionable flamboyance, I feel like Greta Van Fleet very effectively toes the line here without stepping over it. That's actually quite shocking considering how they're usually so willing to leap headfirst into potential ridiculousness. This track works, and it works well. It may well be the most classic sounding song they've yet to record. It's one of the most effective tracks in their discography so far. But then there's Starcatcher's closing number, a song for which I suspect my feelings may be in the minority. Farewell for Now is a bit of an eye roll for me. I don't think I've ever heard a song about the end of a concert that's quite as on the nose as this. Thematically, I suppose it's comparable to the Sgt. Pepper's reprise that basically serves the same purpose on the Beatles' iconic album of the same name. And if Greta Van Fleet had perhaps used a similar bookend technique on Starcatcher, maybe this song would have worked better for me. It's not a bad song at all, it's just a little too cute of a gesture. Not necessarily crossing over into pretentiousness, though, because the earnestness is undeniable. In any case, they've now created what will inevitably be their concert closing number for the foreseeable future, which is a valuable space on the set list that could be better occupied by any number of other better songs. When it comes down to it, this album is Greta Van Fleet doing what Greta Van Fleet does best. For better or worse, that's delivering music that expertly and often explicitly borrows, shall we say, from the greatest bands of rock's greatest era. And I suppose if this is indeed the best they can do, I'm willing to accept that. There's nothing else being created today that feels quite like this. And as temporary as that feeling may be, it's still an enjoyable and sometimes exhilarating one. Still, I wish the band had continued to evolve the way Garden's Gate seemed to indicate they might. We did get some new sounds here with songs like The Indigo Streak, and if anything, The Archer is evidence that they're capable of deftly striking a balance between homage and originality. I hope they do more to explore those kinds of opportunities in the future. So I'm giving Starcatcher by Greta Van Fleet an X rating of 6 out of 10. Even as a step backward for the band, it still manages to tap into 70s rock nostalgia better than any other new music you're likely to find. All right, now as I promised, I want to do a short unboxing of the deluxe edition of Starcatcher, available exclusively from the official Greta Van Fleet website. Similar to the album itself, I have some real frustrations about this otherwise promising package. Let's take a look.
So here you go. This is the nice, glossy, rigid cardboard box that contains the Starcatcher Deluxe Edition. I actually think this is much nicer looking in terms of cover art than the rather boring looking version used for the standard cover, which itself looks like the boring cover for the latest Foo Fighters album. The wraparound full color artwork is nice, but I would have liked to have seen the artist and title on the spine. And here on the back, we get the album title, no track list. That's a bit inconvenient. Taking a look inside the box now, we get the star attraction, so to speak, and that's the 256-piece jigsaw puzzle of the cover art from the box. Very unique. Underneath that, we find the full-color CD booklet. I'll flip through this for you here so you can see all the nice, mystical photos of the band. Not sure if this is the same as the standard CD booklet or not. But notice what you don't find in the booklet. There's no song lyrics and no album credits. That seems really weird to me. I mean, there's no text at all inside this booklet. Here on the back cover, we get instructions to visit the website for all the details. So there's no track list anywhere in this package. Finally, here's the CD itself attached to a plastic clip in the bottom of the box. Again, no idea if this is the same disc art as the standard version. All right, so how about that puzzle? 256 pieces here. Shall we put it together? Well, maybe I'll finish this another time, but I think you have a pretty good idea how it will turn out. So, there it is, the Starcatcher Deluxe Edition, available now at gretavanfleet.com.
Once again, my name's Kyle, and this has been Track by Track. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up, plus check out some of these other videos below that I think you might also enjoy. And of course, be sure to click subscribe, because true music fans always want new releases the day they come out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.